And we have breaking news. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is responding to those new tariffs on Canadian goods. Let's listen.
Enforcements and actions we've taken at the borders. In some, we stepped up. We engaged closely and constructively with the President and his administration. We did everything we promised. We stuck to our word. And we did it because we believe in working together to protect our citizens. Now I want to speak directly to one specific American, Donald. In the over 8 years you and I have worked together, we've done big things. We signed a historic deal that has created record jobs and growth in both of our countries. We've done big things together on the world stage, as Canada and the US have done together for decades, for generations. And now we should be working together to ensure even greater prosperity for North Americans in a very uncertain and challenging world. Now, it's not in my habit to agree with the Wall Street Journal, but Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do. We two friends fighting is exactly what our opponents around the world want to see. And now, to my fellow Canadians, I won't sugarcoat it. This is going to be tough, even though we're all going to pull together, because that's what we do. We will use every tool at our disposal so Canadian workers and businesses can weather this storm. From expanding EI benefits and making them more flexible to providing direct supports to businesses, we will be there as needed to help. But Canada, make no mistake, no matter how long this lasts, no matter what the cost, the federal government and other orders of government will be there for you. We will defend Canadian jobs. We will take measures to prevent predatory behavior that threatens Canadian companies because of the impacts of this trade war, leaving them open to takeovers. We will relentlessly fight to protect our economy. We will stand up for Canadians every single second of every single day because this country is worth fighting for. Les derniers mois ont été stressants et honnêtement épuisants.
And really tiring.
Just been listening there to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau responding to President Trump's new tariffs on Canada. Talking directly to President Trump, he said Donald talked about how they have done big things together and how this is exactly what their adversaries, the U.S. and Canada's adversaries, want. And saying bluntly, you are a very smart guy. This is a very dumb thing to do. I want to bring in our Elizabeth Schulze for more on the reaction here. Elizabeth, what do you make of Prime Minister Trudeau's response here?
Yeah, and Diane, the Prime Minister not holding back in announcing this retaliation, making very clear that Canada is prepared to impose tariffs of the same scale that the U.S. is imposing here. And what we're seeing very quickly is a dramatic escalation in a trading relationship that is so critical between the U.S. and Canada, those two economies so entwined, and frankly, one that has been a friendly trading relationship mostly up until now. I think it's worth remembering that President Trump in his first term renegotiated a trade deal with Canada and Mexico, the USMCA, that basically guaranteed this free trade agreement. Now they've gone from 0% tariffs to 25% overnight, and that's part of what we're seeing this quick escalation go here. And when you just had the board of the stock market up, you can see that the stock market, Diane, is trading lower on this reality that these tariffs are in effect now, about almost 2% down on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Investors had thought that it would not get to this point. A lot of investors had expected that there would be some sort of deal at the last minute between especially the U.S. and Canada. One of the questions analysts, traders have is, what is it going to take to fulfill the requirements to lift these tariffs? What exactly is President Trump looking for? And we have seen a couple of White House officials, cabinet members out today saying that this is about fentanyl. They've continued to make the case that these tariffs on Mexico and Canada are about reducing the flow of fentanyl into the U.S. What exactly the parameters are for reducing that? Is there some sort of benchmark that President Trump has created? That's a big question, especially when you think about the market reaction there. But, pretty significant move here on the part of Canada to say that we will very quickly retaliate too.
And Elizabeth, we heard the Prime Minister there speaking to the Canadian people saying this is going to be tough. What's the expected impact on Americans?
Yeah, and the reality is that most economists expect there will be a recession in Canada. Does that trickle then into lower economic growth in the U.S., especially when you're talking about how closely these two economies are linked? The expectation broadly for Americans, Diane, is that there will be higher prices pretty quickly on the horizon. And that's because of how many goods the U.S. relies on from these two trading partners, the biggest trading partners, Canada and Mexico. One of the places that we might see the most immediate impacts when you think about Canada is in gas. Canada, about 60% of the oil that the U.S. imports, of crude oil, comes from Canada. And what's unique about it is that our refineries in the U.S. are actually designed to process Canadian oil. What that means is there isn't a clear substitute right away. So that's one of the reasons why you could see a pretty quick increase in gas prices, especially in places closer to Canada. So in the Northeast, for example, GasBuddy expects prices could go up 40 cents a gallon, Diane, just in the next week or two. That is a significant cost for households here. We know how much American households are already pinched by inflation. We know that the stubbornly high prices have been weighing on a lot of consumers when they think about their spending going forward. This is going to be another headwind for that, how much they have to pull back. Big question mark hanging over the American economy.
All right, Elizabeth Schulze, thank you.